Well, hello friends, and welcome to Unova. Today I want to attempt a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon White using only the Fire type. This is going to be a very interesting run, as we are limited in our encounters. As a matter of fact, one of these 6 encounters is not available until Victory Road. There's another one that's available very late as well, and we can't evolve it because of how Unova is with its high evolution levels. So this is going to be very interesting, and we're going to have to be on our game throughout the entire game. Otherwise, it's very easy that we wipe and have to watch this intro again. Following Bianca to her house, her dad is saying no, no, 1,000 times no. He does not want her to go on a whirlwind adventure with literal legends doing legal cockfighting, and it makes sense. He's probably the only sane person in the Pokemon universe anyway. But as a parent, when you tell a child no, they can't do something, what is it that they're going to do? Exactly the thing you told them not to do. So, sorry buddy, she ain't gonna listen. It's just how things go, I know. And let's meet our starter choice, Tepig, named Ignition. It has a hardy neutral nature, and this Pokemon is going to have to do some pretty heavy lifting early on. We are then forced to watch a rally by the Pajama PETA people who are talking about Pokemon in how they shouldn't be living in Pokeballs and yada yada yada. It's all a front for bad things. Anytime anybody's doing a rally in the middle of town, it's probably not for the better, especially if they're telling you how you should live, how you should think, and what you should actually do. They're just wanting control. We've seen this formula time and time again. We then meet the human version of Zoroark N, and he is one of the 3 rivals that we have to have in this game that we are going to battle numerous times. And of course, we have to battle this time. I know this battle exists, so I was more than prepared, doing a little bit of EV training and leveling up before the battle. So there's not much to say here other than we have to battle our rivals a lot. And this being a Gen 5 game, we get 3 of them as mentioned before, and none of them can be nicknamed. So in my head, I have nicknamed all 3 of these rivals Algorithm, because we are trying to beat the algorithm both in-game and in real life. Now, there are going to be some spots where we have to battle our rivals, where things are going to be difficult. Bianca is not one of those. So I will show those battles as we approach them, but for the most part, they should be relatively easy. The real-life algorithm, however, is much more difficult to defeat, and I can't just skip the easy parts. We have to do the entire grind all the way through. I need your help, though. You can help me defeat the algorithm by liking the video, commenting on the video, subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification bell, and of course sharing this video with your friends. Those are the free and easy ways to help me out that only take a little bit of your time and are greatly appreciated. If you're liking the content and you want to throw a little bit of financial compensation my way, try to be a channel member. You don't have to, but you get early access to the videos at the Apprentice tier, and you can permanently nickname a Pokemon at the Journeyman tier. To those of you that are channel members, I greatly appreciate it, and everybody else watching this video, you guys are absolutely amazing. You get me out here each and every week doing these videos over and over again despite a very hectic schedule with work. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys ever so much. In the Dream Yard, you talk to this person and they will give you an elemental monkey that is super effective against the super effective type against your starter. So since we chose Tepig, we get a Pansage, which is not a fire type, it is a grass type. It is very unfortunate that we can't pick the elemental monkey here. You can catch him in Pinwheel Forest, but that's not till after you defeat Lenora, the 2nd gym leader. So Growth here is a Pansage with a naive nature, and with the help of Professor Oak and a little bit of editing magic, we get Growth the Panseer with a naive nature from the Dream Yard. That is wonderful. That's plus speed and minus special defense. If I didn't get this Pokemon before the 2nd gym, it would have made things very, very difficult, almost impossible. I don't necessarily need the monkey for the 1st gym, but it would make things a lot easier if we could pick the elemental monkey. When entering this gym for the very first time and seeing the fact that you have to battle a trainer that is super effective against the starter you chose, I absolutely fell in love with this gym and this generation. Taking on Cress is a little bit scary, but the Lillipup likes to go for workup, and we can just go for Embers, which are stab, and do a decent amount of damage. We did do some EV training and attack, so tackle does a lot more damage after a bite, puts us at 33 HP. From here, we grow to level 15 where we can learn Flame Charge. This is allowed in my hardcore Nuzlocke. In most everybody's hardcore Nuzlocke, you can level up mid-battle. And now we know Flame Charge, which is a stab fire type move, but it's also physical. And we can use this to get the speed advantage against the Panpour, despite it being not very effective. Also, the Panpour is going for workup, so that is making things very, very scary. Now, with a couple of tackles, we should be able to take this thing out, but it doesn't look like we're going to get the range, and it's going for another workup. We hit a tackle, and then we get hit with a +2 water gun to 9 HP before our Oran Berry. Of course, Cress is going to use a potion, but because we have the speed advantage, and with a little bit of extra range here, we take out the Panpour. In the preschool, you talk to this kid, and he says, "Rawr, I'll run, you gonna chase me, you run, am I gonna chase you?" Change your perspective, and the reality changes. No truer words have ever been spoken, my young friend. Perspective is a lot about how you go through your day. If you change your perspective and have a happy outlook, chances are things are going to go in a happy way. If you meet things with an attitude or a less than positive attitude, it's probably not going to go good. Change your perspective, change your reality. The sheer amount of times that we have to battle our rivals throughout these runs is immensely annoying. If memory serves me correct, because I'm not going to go back and check, we have to battle our rivals a total of 13 times in these games. He does have an Oshawott that's a little bit scary, but we can put this thing to sleep with a yawn as it's going for a water sport. The next turn is what matters the most as we go for an Incinerate that doesn't do that much damage, but it burns the berry, and it goes for focus energy. Beautiful. As it lulls off to sleep, we're going to swap into our starter and do some damage with tackles as we have some decent attack, and we've been doing attack EV training. We are going to have to EV train most of our Pokemon to the max to get through these battles. A Wake Up and Tail Whip is a little bit scary, but we make it through, and the Purloin doesn't matter. We get our first evolution on the team, with Ignition evolving from a Tepig into a Pignite. Gaining the fighting type, very nice. Before entering the second gym and taking on Lenora, we have to battle N. N has a Tympole with Bubble Beam that is relatively scary, so I had to come into this battle prepared. The Pidove is going to hit us with quick attacks as we try to put this thing to sleep. That's perfectly fine. We're just going to go for Stab Incinerates. It's not a great move, but it does a decent little bit of damage, and we could have gotten through all of this without the monkey, but the monkey is helping so much. It's a great addition to the team. Now, just before we take out the Pidove, as it is asleep, we are going to swap into Pignite, and of course it wakes up and hits us with a Stab Super Effective Gust, because why not? From here we can get off a Flame Charge to boost our speed, and next should be the Tympole, the scariest Pokemon he's got. Bubble Beam at this early stage is insane, but a Flame Charge does a decent amount of damage despite it being resisted. A Growl lowers our attack, which is very annoying, but we can go for Arm Thrust here, hoping for some decent attacks, and a 3-shot is pretty good. Bubble Beam doesn't do as much damage as I thought, getting a speed drop, but we take out the Tympole, and the rest of N's team is just a Timber that we're not that scared of. We still got the monkey in the back if we need it, and we can easily take this thing out. It's going for Bide, so it was a very smart swap, and from here we can go for a Yawn. I was anticipating the Bide, so very nice, and we're just going to burn a turn with Yawn again so that we don't do any damage as it tries to unleash its damage. And now that it's asleep, we can actually start attacking this thing. Incinerates. Oh, critical hit. That's perfect. Does a lot of damage. And another one should take out Timber. Whilst touring the gym, we get told that this is just an ordinary old stone and they just put it on display because it looks neat. Kind of like the pebble you get in Legends ZA. Looks like they recycled a little bit of story dialogue and used it for that game. That's perfectly fine. I don't mind. The battle with Lenora is the reason we need a second Pokemon, because we can lead with Growth to soak up the Intimidates from Herdier. If we didn't soak up that Intimidate, things would be very difficult for our team. We take a Takedown, which would have KO'd us if it had crit, but we do lull the Herdier off to sleep. Now, I have to stay in and risk this with the Oranberry health. We're risking another critical hit here, but this thing has to be put to sleep, and we survive on 3 HP before the Herdier falls asleep, and it is sitting at half health. We should be able to swap in Ignition here. Herdier stays asleep, and we should be able to take it out with some arm thrusts, which we do. Just takes a couple of hits and it goes down. Now, the Watchog can use Retaliate that is boosted because we KO'd its friend, but it opts to go for Hypnosis, and I forgot to put on the Chesto Berry. Oh no! Now we get hit with the Retaliate, but we wake up, get a critical hit arm thrust, and a 3-shot to KO the Watchog. Okay. Never punished for my blunders. The PETA people then meet us in the gym where they want to steal the Dragonite skull? Why or how is petty theft going to preserve Pokemon? See, it's all a ruse. We know it's a ruse. I can't prove it yet, but I know it is, and I'm going to be standing right here when I told you so. We then have to chase Team Plasma down in the Pinwheel Forest with the help of Berg, but he's going to take the straight path, the easy path, the one that would take us right to the exit, and I actually have to go through the forest, which is fine. Whatever. We'll do it. We have to battle some trainers. It's going to get us a little bit of XP, but we only have 2 Pokemon, so we have to be careful not to overlevel our Pokemon. As soon as we enter Castelia, there's a ton of stuff to do, but we can talk to this guy to get ourselves a Firestone to eventually evolve Growth. When are we going to do that? I want to hold off as long as I can because it learns Crunch at level 43, but I don't know that we're going to be able to hold off that long because that's through 8 gym leaders, so we'll have to play this one by ear. Of course, running down the alleyway, a guy wearing some glasses behind a dumpster pulls out his worm and flashes me. Thank you, friend. That's mildly impressive. I will take the TM as well, and you can put it away, and I will continue my adventure. I'm pretty sure this guy is now on a list. I don't know. The battle against Berg's bug types goes exactly how you think it would. We lead Ignition against the Whirlipede, and we're going to go for Flame Charges to boost our speed to outspeed the Levani in the back. Unfortunately, we don't one-shot the Whirlipede. We do get hit with a Pursuit, and then Berg is going to go for a Hyper Potion. That's perfectly fine. We will use another Flame Charge, and again, we don't quite get the KO, so Berg is going to burn his final Hyper Potion. Awesome. From here, we hit a Flame Charge that gets a high roll and one-shots. The Dwebble that he has throws a wrench into plans when planning for this battle sometimes, as it doesn't take super effective damage from Flame Charge, but we also don't take super effective damage from Smackdown. The Pocket Sand is a little bit annoying. We can go for a Grass Knot for some chip. Not that I need it because he doesn't have any more potions, but it is what it is. A Flame Charge takes it out as we're sitting at 58 HP before the Levani comes out. There is nothing this thing can do short of us missing a bunch of attacks because of the Sand Attack. It can also prolong things with Protect, but that doesn't matter. Never mind, we get hit with a String Shot as we miss a Flame Charge. Can we hit one? Thank you. Quad super effective stab. We easily one-shot. That's the 3rd gym badge. Out on Route 4, we get our next encounter, a Darumaka that has a hardy neutral nature we nicknamed Flashover. Yes, I could have gotten this Pokemon before we took on Berg, but I didn't need him. The Hustle ability is a little bit annoying as we could potentially miss some attacks, but this does become Sheer Force when it evolves, so things like Fire Fang are going to be boosted by 30%. But it's never going to burn the opponent. So Sheer Force boosts moves that do extra things to the opponent's Pokemon. If it does like recoil damage to us, that doesn't go away. The rival battle with Charon on Route 4 is typically a little bit annoying because of the Sandstorm chip, but also his Oshawott has evolved into a Duat, so things can get very scary very fast. A Flame Burst doesn't take out the Pidove as we get tagged with a Leer. The Sandstorm chip also doesn't take it out, so we have to bite the Pigeon to finish it off. This is going to bring out the Duat, the scariest Pokemon on his team, and I'm going to go for a Yawn, as Duat thankfully goes for Water Sport. At this point, there's not much that we can do here. I'm going to go for Bite, hoping for a flinch, and we actually get the flinch. So we never take any damage other than chip damage from Sandstorm before that thing lulls off to sleep. From here, we can bring in Ignition, who has Grass Knot. Unfortunately, the move does damage based on weight, and Duat is not very heavy, at least not yet. So it does decent damage, but Duat has a berry. It also wakes up and goes for Focus Energy, which is very, very scary, as a Grass Knot takes the Duat low, and Razor Shell leaves us at 7 HP. Sandstorm takes out Duat and leaves us at 2 HP. Wow. Pansear comes out, and of course I have to swap, so we're going to bring in our own Pansear, Growth. Growth is a much better monkey than his Pansear, as we get hit with a bite, and then we give a bite back of our own that does massive damage. We get dropped down to 27 HP after the chip and take out the Pansear, and his last Pokemon is a Liepard. I'm not too scared about the Liepard, as it is not very scary. I'm going to try to put it to sleep with a Yawn, and it goes for Torment. That makes things a little bit annoying, as the only other moves we have are Dark types, so they don't deal a lot of damage, and Flame Burst does. Pursuit then knocks us to 11 HP, and the Sandstorm takes us to 8, so as the Liepard lulls off to sleep, we can bring in the newest member of our team, Flashover. Thankfully we have this Pokemon, or we would be in dire straits. We could have taken out the Liepard with another Flame Burst, and we would have taken no more chip damage, but I was playing this very safely, and giving Flashover a little bit of screen time. After a very awkward Ferris wheel ride with N, where he reveals to us that he is the king of Team Plasma, he challenges us to a battle because I denied his request to be his queen. He leads a Sandile that gets completely obliterated from a Flame Charge, and out next is his Sigilyph. We're going to go for Rock Tomb, which does connect, and it goes for Tailwind. Now, even with the -1 from Rock Tomb and the +1 from Flame Charge, it outspeeds to hit us with a nasty Air Cutter to just under half, as we take it out with a Rock Tomb. A little bit risky, as that move does not always hit, but we had to do what we had to do to get through. His Darumaka doesn't quite get taken out from a Rock Tomb, and then hits us with a nasty little headbutt to 16 HP. I don't want to risk it on a less than accurate move, so we swap into Growth. Growth is a great Pokemon. It hasn't seen major battle time, but it's been pivotal getting through these other stage battles throughout the run. Scraggy is his final Pokemon, and I wish Ignition was a little more healthy, but a Flame Burst takes the Scraggy to half before we get tagged with a Swagger that is very, very annoying. I hate that move. I hate Confusion. Really, it's super annoying. We can bring in Flashover at this point as we get hit with a Brick Break, doing a decent amount of damage, but we are pretty fast, and Fire Punch takes out the Scraggy. The baddest person in all of Unova challenges us to a gym battle, Elisa and her electric types. Her Volt Switching Emolgas are very annoying. We get hit with Volt Switch because we're outsped. I thought Flashover might be able to outspeed, but what we can do if we connect with Fire Punch with the help of Hustle and Stab, we one-shot. So that is Emolga number 2 down. Emolga number 1 comes back out. It's going to go for Volt Switch again, and this is going to bring in the Zebstrika that we should be able to do massive damage with Fire Punch, if it hits. Which it does, and it leaves Zebstrika on a sliver. From here, we can swap into Ignition because I know Elise is going to go for a Hyper Potion, and then we're going to get outsped and hit with a Volt Switch, but hopefully we can take out Emolga number 1 relatively quickly. Volt Switch hits us for a decent little bit of damage, and as Emolga number 1 comes out, we hit it with a Flame Charge that doesn't one-shot, but it does leave it below half. With the speed boost, though, we now outspeed, and we can KO Emolga number 1 with a Flame Charge. Nice. This just leaves her Zebstrika, which is a little bit scary, but we can go for a Flame Charge. And it leaves Zebstrika at a sliver because of a critical hit. Spark takes us to 21 HP, and I know Elise is going to heal. I want to see what Flame Charge will do. If it does over half, we're perfectly fine staying in. Yep, and we can KO her third and final Pokemon, getting us the 4th Gym Badge. Like, what are we actually doing right now? I really don't know what we're doing. With the whole dress-up thing, though, they start talking about musicals. I'm not going to be a part of a musical. We have to do the Pokestar Studio stuff in black and white too. I really don't want to do it here. We, as a matter of fact, though, are going to beat Bryson so bad in the gym battle coming up that he quits being a gym trainer and decides to be an actor instead at the PokeStar Studios. So, yeah, foreshadowing. Or spoiler? That's what I was trying to say. Not only is Elisa a model, a gym trainer, or gym leader rather, but she's also in charge of the Driftvale Drawbridge. Yeah, she's got a lot of hats that she has to wear and a lot of responsibilities. Good for you. In the cold storage area, we can pick up the TM for Scold. It may seem weird that I'm telling you guys this, but there's a reason that we pick this move up for later. Now, I don't know if you guys consider this cheating or not, but we can come to the battle subway and temporarily they will raise our Pokemon to level 50. We can battle in these train cars, and after 7 trainers, we get ourselves some battle points. I did this. I don't consider this cheating because it's a temporary raise in level. Our Pokemon don't actually stay at level 50, so it's not breaking the level cap rule. And we do this so that we can get 48 battle points to buy ourselves the air balloon. Without the air balloon, I don't think that Clay is possible without a loss. I don't want to lose any Pokemon as it's a long time before we get our 4th encounter, our 5th encounter, and our 6th encounter, so we have to do what we have to do to preserve the run. I'm also going to have to go ahead and evolve Growth. It just doesn't have the defense to survive an attack, just in case we do get hit with one, so welcome to the team Semisear. And with all the preparations out of the way, we can finally take on one of the biggest threats so far, Clay and his ground types. Luckily for us, his Krokorok does not have Intimidate, and a 2-shot from Arm Thrust takes out the Krokorok. This is going to bring in Chancellor Palpitoad, and this thing being a ground water type is very scary, but we have the quad super effective move Grass Knot that doesn't quite take it out. It's going for the speed advantage with Bulldoze, which is perfectly fine. Clay goes for a Hyper Potion. We can go for a Flame Charge to maintain that speed advantage, doing some chip, and then we can take it out with one more Grass Knot. Down goes Chancellor Palpitoad. The scariest Pokemon on his team is his Excadrill, and I don't want to stay in. It's going to go for Bulldoze because we outspeed, so we're going to pivot into Growth with the Air Balloon, and we don't get hit by Bulldoze. From here, I thought he would go for Rock Slide or something to break our Air Balloon, but he opts to go for Hone Claws, and Flame Burst does massive damage, and now we've got Clay in a Heal Lock, where we're going to 2-shot the Excadrill or 1-shot it with a critical hit no matter what, and so we evolved this Pokemon for nothing. I could have left it a damn Pansear, but let's move forward. Ooh, and we get an evolution with Flashover evolving into a Darmanitan. This is a very speedy Pokemon and has a decent attack stat. I'm excited to have this thing on the team with sheer force. Just before taking on Skyla in the Celestial Tower, we can get our 4th encounter, a Litwick named Developed. It has a Rash plus special attack and minus special defense nature with the Flame Body ability. Unfortunately, this thing doesn't evolve until level 41 and then a Duskstone respectively, so it's going to stay a Litwick for a while. As we take on Skyla, it's unfortunate that we don't have access to Surf, as we could go to the Mistralton Cave and we could get Rock Slide. But with sheer force, Flare Blitz is boosted because it has a chance to burn. We still take the recoil damage, however. We 1-shot the Swoobat, and out comes Swanna, probably the scariest Pokemon on her team. For Swanna, though, we do have Rock Tomb, and I have the held Wide Lens for that added accuracy. We connect and we 1-shot. We would not get the speed lower, so that move is boosted by sheer force as well. Unfezant's going to go down to a Stab Flare Blitz, and Flashover is really putting on a school here of how to 1-shot sweep a team. Great Pokemon. It really is. Outside Twist Mountain, we have a rival battle with Charon, and the scariest thing about this battle is it is in the rain. So his water-type moves are going to be boosted. I lead Flashover. Unfortunately, Flare Blitz is nerfed because of the rain, but we do have Rock Tomb that will do massive damage and not quite 1-shot the Unfezant. I think it was a roll, a damage roll that we just didn't get. No matter, we take it out with another one, taking a little bit of damage from Air Slash, and out comes Duat. I'm just going to go for Headbutt with a normal gym here to 1-shot. That was the plan. We made it through. With this Pokemon being such high level because of the sweep of Skyla, I knew that it could take out his first 2 Pokemon relatively easy. From here, we can swap around and take out the rest of his team. They're not that scary, and we finally get access to Surf, where we can backtrack through a couple of different things, like the Mistralton Cave, to get our hands on the TM for Rock Slide, as well as a Dusk Stone for developed in the future. Ignition then reaches level 36, where it evolves from a Pignite into an Emboar. This is a very great evolution and nice bulk added to the team. And if you remember, not that long ago, we picked up the TM for Scald, which, surprise, surprise, Ignition can learn. I didn't know that. I was looking at its moveset, and it can actually learn the base 80 power special move, Scald, so we're going to get rid of Rock Tomb, and I've been doing some mixed EV training with this Pokemon just to give us that little bit more coverage before heading into Twist Mountain, where we're going to have to take on some rock types and ground types. But before we do that, we do some backtracking to Route 18, where we can talk to this person, who will give us an egg. It's an egg that they found in the Relic Castle in our next encounter. And after a fair bit of running around, the egg, of course, hatches into a Larvesta. Very nice. So let's meet Decay, the Larvesta, with a Lax plus defense and minus special defense nature. Now, this Pokemon doesn't evolve until level 59, so we're never going to see its evolution, and honestly, I don't know that it's going to do much on the team, but it is another Pokemon nonetheless. Now, if you think that the battle with Bryson and his ice types is going to be easy for my fire type team, you are correct. I lead Growth against the Vanillish and hit it with a Flame Burst to one-shot. We've done some mixed EV training with this Pokemon, and it has been a great support mon throughout the run. The Beartic unfortunately doesn't go down to a single Flame Burst, and we get tagged with a Swagger. I don't like confusion, so we're definitely going to swap out, as Bryson is going to heal with the Hyper Potion. Ultimately, I decide to bring in Decay. I don't know what this Pokemon is going to do in this run, so yeah, let's give it a little bit of limelight while we can. A Flame Charge does just over half, and then Beartic has Brine. I forgot completely about that move, and a critical hit would have knocked us out, but we're never punished. Another Flame Charge takes out the Beartic, and his last Pokemon is Cryogonal. Cryogonal is going to come out, and I believe this Pokemon is a little bit more physically defensive, so I'm going to swap back into Growth. As Growth swaps in, it in fact goes for Reflect, so that was a great move on my part. Now, unfortunately, once again, Flame Burst is not going to one-shot, leaving it at a sliver as we get hit with an Aurora Beam. Bryson is going to go for a Hyper Potion, and then a double up on Flame Burst is going to get us the win. Just like I said, we beat this guy so bad with our team and some less than optimal Pokemon, he decides to become an actor. With the level cap of 43, we can now get developed to level 41, where it evolves into a Lampent. Very nice. From here, I'm going to go ahead and use the Dusk Stone that we found in Mistralton Cave to evolve it further into a Chandelure. I would like to wait for Shadow Ball, but we get the TM very quickly in the Relic Castle. Last for the gym leaders is Iris, because we're playing Pokemon White. That's a neat little detail. Pokemon Black, you take on Drayden. Pokemon White, you take on Iris. Now, I have Shadow Ball because we got the TM in the Relic Castle, and I have the choice specs from the Battle Subway. It took a long time to get them, and it's going to be a sweep of developed here on this entire team, showing off just how great this Pokemon is. It's one of my favorites from Generation 5, and its dual-typing Fire Ghost I think is absolutely awesome. It's just a powerhouse of a Pokemon. Just before heading off to the Victory Road, our rivals stop us, and Sharon challenges us to a battle once again. Now, I thought this battle would be difficult when I was first looking at this run, but let me show you what we do in this run. Unfezant is led, and I lead developed once again, and we set up the Sun. Unfezant goes for Air Slash, and it misses. Perfect. Now, a Sun-boosted Flame Burst is going to one-shot the Unfezant. I didn't need the Sun for the Unfezant. What I needed the Sun for was the Solar Beam for the Samurott. We are going to outspeed and one-shot this thing with a super effective Solar Beam from a very speedy and very bulky Pokemon on the special side. Yeah, Developed is just proving how superior this Pokemon is to everybody else on his team. Liepard, of course, is one-shot with a Sun-boosted Flame Burst, and his last Pokemon is a Simisear, so we're going to switch it to Shadow Ball, and unfortunately, because we don't have the boost from Choice Specs, we don't quite one-shot. It is a bulky Pokemon, these different elemental monkeys, but a tag from Leer is perfectly fine. The sun goes down, and we take out the monkey. Look, Ma, no hands. Also, no strings, no feet. Basically, we're just floating in air, and I wanted to show that off. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'll say it every time. The gate checks in Generation 5 are absolutely awesome. Black and White are some very, very well developed games, in my opinion, and these gate checks in Gen 5 are great. The one in Kalos is also great, don't get me wrong, but Gen 5 just holds a special place in my heart. Now, whilst we're in the Victory Road, we can pick up our final team member, a Heatmor named Extinction. It has a modest plus special attack and minus attack nature with the Flash Fire ability. I really don't know what this Pokemon can do, but we have a full team before the Elite Four. Let's check out that team, fully leveled up and ready to take on the Elite Four, starting out with Growth, the Simisear with Shadow Claw, Yawn, Acrobatics, and of course, Flame Burst. Developed the Chandelure with Shadow Ball, Sunny Day, Flame Burst, and Solar Beam. Unfortunately, Flamethrower is a TM post-game. Flash over the Darmanitan with Flare Blitz, Brick Break, Headbutt, and Rock Slide. I know that Brick Break doesn't get a boost from sheer force, but it's on our moveset nonetheless. Decay the Larvesta with Flame Charge, Bug Bite, Acrobatics, and Wild Charge. I know that's a weird one-off, but we did it nonetheless. Ignition the starter, Embor with Flame Charge, Brick Break, Scold, and Grass Knot. And of course, the last member of the team, Extinction the Heatmor with Flame Burst, Solar Beam, Sunny Day, and Toxic. Let's see if this team can beat the Elite Four. Another thing about Generation 5 that I absolutely love is the fact that we can take on the Elite Four in any order. I ultimately decided to go to Chantal first because developed with the Choice Specs and Shadow Ball, we outspeed and one-shot her entire team. She does have a scary Pokemon with both Golurk and Jellicent, but I'm not scared with the Choice Specs and Shadow Ball. As a matter of fact, developed could wipe out probably 3 of the 4 Elite Four members single-handedly. Caitlyn is going to be a walk in the park, and Grimsley, with the Choice Specs and Flame Burst, we would probably mop up, no problem. But Marshall, of course, is going to give us a little bit of a fit. I don't want to just rely on Chandelure through the entire Elite Four, but we might have to. Up against Caitlyn, I ultimately lead with Growth. The reason for this is it has Shadow Claw, it does have the Choice Band as I spent more time in the Battle Subway, but we don't one-shot. Maybe if we had gotten Crunch on our moveset, we could have. I do have a max attack EV stat, did a little bit of training in speed and special attack as well, so there's nothing more that this Pokemon could do. We also almost get taken out by a Psychic, so we go back to our original strategy, and we bring out Developed with the Choice Specs to one-shot her entire team. After a full restore or Hyper Potion, I was not paying attention. We easily one-shot the Reuniclus, and her entire team is going to go down. Sometimes you put the blinders on, and you can only see one strategy going forward, but it's a very easy strategy to lean on, Choice Specs and Shadow Ball, and I don't know that we need the Choice Specs to actually one-shot all of our Pokemon. It's just what I ultimately decided to do. I really love this Pokemon. I do not want it to do all of the work, but it's hard not to, right? Look at it. It's easily just sweep, sweep. That's 2 of 4 Elite Four members defeated. For Grimsley, I do come up with another strategy. I decide to lead Flashover against the Scrafty. Sheer Force does not boost Brick Break, but Brick Break is a one-shot no matter, so the Scrafty goes down. Crocodile should be baited in next, and I sure could have led with Ignition in this battle, but I want everybody to get a little bit of time in the limelight. We soak up the Intimidate, and here's the plan. We pivot into Growth, because Growth is holding the air balloon that never got popped in the clay battle. So we avoid the Earthquake, and now we're going to pivot into Ignition as Crocodile should be going for foul play. Because of our fighting type, it is going to be resisted, so we take minimal damage, and from here, with Stab super effective Brick Breaks, we should be able to one-shot the rest of his entire team. This was a good plan. I thought it was a good plan. The Liepard is going to come out and go for Fake Out, so we're going to take a little bit of chip, or a little bit more damage than I wish we would have, but no matter, Ignition is going to wipe the rest of his team, and that is 3 of 4 Elite Four members defeated. Marshall, though, is going to be a little bit tricky, and we could potentially lose a Pokemon, so got to come up with a strategy. I've got a strategy for Marshall, but it also requires some luck. Against the throw, I lead Flashover. We go for a Choice Band boosted, Sheer Force boosted, Stab Flare Blitz that just completely obliterates the throw. That's not the problem. The problem is the sock that has Sturdy and it has Stone Edge. So we're going to pivot, and Ignition actually takes neutral damage from Stone Edge being part fighting type, so we swap in and take a little bit of damage from Stone Edge. It can also miss, which would be great. Flame Charge unfortunately gets a very low roll, and unless we get another very low roll, we should be able to take out the sock. So we click Flame Charge and it hits. We get a critical hit. Okay, that's fine. I will take the crit. Out next is Conkeldurr. Every single one of these Pokemon have a rock type move, whether it's Stone Edge or Rock Slide, so this is very scary all the way through. It goes for Hammer Arm, and we survive on 22 HP. I have risked this Pokemon's life more times than I can count, but an Acrobatics does take out the Conkeldurr, and I forgot to equip the Flying Gem, so that critical hit was needed to one-shot. Oops. Anyway, as the Mienshao comes out, I'm hoping it's going for High Jump Kick, so I pivot into Developed. It's going for Retaliate, which doesn't affect us, so perfect. From here, we can hit a Shadow Ball. I don't have the Choice Specs equipped either, because I took them off for what? I don't remember. I was planning and switching around items, so we don't take out the Mienshao and risk a death there. So this was 2 bad misplays on my part, but we never get punished, as we have the Mienshao in a heal lock, so Marshall uses up all of his full restores, and then we can 2-shot this thing with Shadow Ball, as we never would have one-shot it. As you can see there, it leaves it on a sliver every single time, but we did the Elite Four deathless. Then we get to watch a pretty cool cutscene as we were going to take on Alder with N's castle rising from the desert. You know, it's just got some drills on the top of it. I mean, there's a bunch of plot holes that I don't want to really talk about. It's still a neat cutscene. The storyline of this game is amazing. I can't say it enough. I love Generation 5. I love Pokemon. I'm a big fan of all the different generations, but this one, when I first played it, it just hit in a different way. If you guys love Generation 5, you know what I mean. There are only 2 battles that separate us and victory, and the first of which is against N. N leads Reshiram, and I lead Developed. Now, Developed does not have the Choice Specs on, because I might need to switch up my moves in the battle with Getsis. These battles are back-to-back, so you have to do quite a bit of planning. We get a low roll Shadow Ball against the Reshiram, but turn 2 we get a high roll, so we KO this thing no problem. What is a problem, and probably the biggest one for N's team, is the Caracosta with Stab super effective water moves and Stab super effective rock type moves. Thinking it's going to go for a Stone Edge, I swap into Ignition. It does in fact go for Stone Edge that is neutral, but it does massive damage because it's Stab. All we can do is get off a Brick Break until Ignition ultimately falls to a Waterfall. A sacrifice was needed here. I did not take this lightly. We needed to survive a Stone Edge and then do some damage. Unfortunately, we did a little too much damage as N goes for a full restore. That's okay. Flashover is fast and does hit hard, so we can outspeed and knock out the Caracosta with a couple of Brick Breaks. We're not out of the woods yet, as his next scariest Pokemon, Archeops, comes out. With Stab super effective rock type moves in Stone Edge, this could get a little dangerous. Brick Break unfortunately doesn't one-shot, but Stone Edge misses, so that's it. It's downhill from here as we take out the Archeops with a Brick Break, and the rest of his team is actually weak to Brick Break. Wick is a combination of weak and Brick Break. Yeah, I do that quite often, but anyway, a super effective Brick Break that is not boosted by Sheer Force, but is boosted by the Choice Band, does one-shot the rest of his team, and this is quickly going to get us to Getsis. Unfortunately, we had a death. I would have liked to swap in another Pokemon that would have been a little less useful, like Extinction or Decay, but yeah, we made our choice. All that stands between us and victory is Getsis. My original plan with Developed against the Cofferegus was to set up the sun and have Solar Beam ready for the Seismitoad that should come out next. But with Toxic and Protect, I decided to just Shadow Ball this thing into Oblivion, making the battle now a 5v5, and then we see Bouffalant come out, so I'm glad I didn't go through all of that process to set up the sun. We switch into Growth on an Earthquake that is avoided because of the air balloon that we still have, And from here, I'm going to pivot into Flashover to tank the head charge that is going to do massive damage, and as long as it doesn't crit, we survive. Just barely. From here, we can fire off a super effective Brick Break and KO the Buffalant, but then the Seismitoad is going to come out next. With us being at such low health, it should be going for a random move, not necessarily Earthquake, so I'm going to bring in Extinction, hoping for the best. As Extinction comes in, we see a Sludge Wave. That is best case scenario. We're going to set up the Sun, and unfortunately Extinction's time in the battlefield is short-lived, because we get taken down by an Earthquake, but setting up the Sun was what you needed to do. I'm sorry, friend. I wish this would have been different. Now we can bring in Developed, and with Solar Beam being a one-turn move and quad super effective base 120 power on the special side, yeah, we mop up the floor with the Seismitoad. We're not out of the woods yet, as there's still some strong Pokemon for us to deal with in the back. What we see next, however, is the Bisharp, so that's not a problem. With the Sun up, we can easily KO this thing with a Flame Burst. He has two more Pokemon, a Hydreigon and an Electros, both of which are very scary. The Hydreigon, I should have maybe pivoted into Decay now that I'm voicing this over, and hindsight's always 20/20, because we need a safe swap in to get Flashover back in. So ultimately, I just do some back and forth with Developed here, and letting this Pokemon go, I shouldn't have. I was hoping for a crit there to take out the Hydreigon, but ultimately we go down. I'm sorry, friend. Hindsight, like I said, is 20/20. We will bring Flashover in. Getsus is going to use a full restore, but that honestly doesn't matter with the Choice Band. Brick Break is going to one-shot the Hydreigon. We have 3 Pokemon left, and he has 1. Very one-sided at this point. The Electros is very scary, having no weaknesses with the Levitate ability. This is not Legend ZA, so we can't hit it with ground-type moves. I love that game, by the way. Still making my way through it at the time of recording this. But we can hit it with a Brick Break, doing massive damage. It's not going to one-shot, and Flashover is going to get taken down by a Crunch, so this just leaves us with 2 Pokemon, Decay and Growth. I could bring Decay in here to let it finish off the battle, but you know what? Growth has been such a support Pokemon at this point and done massive things in very key battles. I'm bringing it in and letting it clutch up the last part of this run. Thank you for your service. This team was great, and we have made it to the end with a fire-only team in Pokemon White. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this run. It was a ton of fun to do. I enjoyed playing through Black and White, as I always do, and fire types are fun. Once again, here in Generation 5, they have the same problem with pretty limited type coverage, but we made it through some key battles with some strategy, some planning, and a lot of grinding. We did do a lot of EV training in this one, as well as getting some items from the battle subway. It was awesome. I had 10 tons of fun. Without the choice items, a lot of these battles wouldn't have gone the way that they went, but that's part of the strategy. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the continued support week in and week out. Without you guys, this would be very boring. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing if you've made it this far, and I will see you on the next one.